Boom, we are live. Pitchdeck Asia, powered by Asia Tech Podcast here in Singapore. In the studio, my name is Graham Brown, joined by Joerg Zeugner of Really. Joerg, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. It's a pleasure being here.
It's good to have you here. So we're going to talk about Really and the challenge of the market that you're in. We're going to go there in a minute, but we had an interesting conversation off air 2 weeks now into your entrepreneurial journey. You're still smiling. So
yes, definitely.
Welcome to the dark side of entrepreneurship. So you have been a corporate for 15 years. You now started your own startup. We'll talk about that journey as well. The market, the problem, the solution. We'll talk about your team, where you go in the future. Let's start at the top. Where are you from originally?
So I come from Germany, from the east part of Germany.
Yeah.
And so I've spent like basically my whole youth there till the studies, and then I made the first step outside Germany to England.
Yeah, Newcastle.
To Newcastle. Yes.
Exciting. And then you moved to Singapore 2012?
Yeah, 2012. So a bit more than 7 years here in Singapore now.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, exciting times here.
It's a great place to be right now, 2019 in entrepreneurship. And it's interesting as well, there's that real story about the immigrant entrepreneur and how important they are for startup success. I mean, you look at Silicon Valley, how many people in Silicon Valley came from outside? You and I, both from outside Singapore.
Yes.
So hopefully we're rebuilding that Silicon Valley here in Singapore. Let's talk about Really and the market that you're in first. Maybe a little bit of your background to give that context. Where are you from? How would you describe yourself in the corporate world? What was your life before entrepreneurship?
So before entrepreneurship, so I was like always like with big multinational corporates from Germany. So, but then firstly based in China for a couple of years, but then now the last 7 years in Singapore. And the background was like both financial, but also pretty much focused on real estate and IT.
Yeah.
So basically I had to serve like the big financial institute here in Singapore with all their property, real estate questions, but also with the IT related issues.
Right. What was your role within that?
So
were you on the IT engineering programming side, or you were more on the investment management side?
So it was in general the workplace side.
Yeah.
So basically catering for all the employees, for all the stuff,
Yeah.
all their basic needs. Have a desk, have a seat, have a phone, have a laptop, have applications on the laptop. Everything should run smooth.
Right. That is a tough job as well when you're dealing for many thousands of employees. And the kind of companies you work for, I mean, like Volkswagen and Alliance, these are very much blue chip, traditional German companies, right? So, I mean, these are huge multinationals now. So you've seen these companies, and I think you're a great example, if I can say in a very positive way, of a corporate dropout. You know, that there are the college dropouts of the 19, 20-year-old kids who go and start startups. But there's this really interesting generation of people, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, maybe even older in their 50s, who have 10, 15, 20 years experience in corporate. They've seen what's broken. They come out with their experience and their network of relationships, and they don't want to change the world. They just want to fix a problem that's broken. So let's talk about that. What market are you in with Really? Let's define with a macro level in terms of globally. How would you define your market?
Yeah, so the market is in general like the property, but related all to fit out, renovation works, and maintenance and facilities management.
Right.
So this is overall like our target market.
Commercial property or private property?
Firstly, focus on only commercial property, but also looking out for private property, like the condos, for instance, here in Singapore.
Okay, so like facilities management.
Exactly, facilities management, property management.
Right, okay. Before I ask you about what's broken and what you want to fix in that market, how big is this market first? Let's help us understand, because we don't usually see that market, do we? See the sort of the retail private property market.
Yeah, so on a global, coming from a global level, so globally every year there are about $6 trillion just spent on all the construction, fit out, renovation type of work and services related to that.
Yeah.
And when looking here on Singapore only, so in 2018, there was like a market size of $32 billion spent only in 1 year. And that was split almost 50-50 into commercial and residential.
Right. 32 billion in Singapore alone.
In Singapore only.
Split between commercial and residential. When you say that is the size of development, facilities management, and so on. Is that not including the build itself? Is that just the maintenance of the buildings?
So also the build.
Okay.
Everything, all the contracts related to building, but also all the interior, getting like everything in place so that the people can move in.
Right. 32 billion in Singapore. That's like $6,000 per head, right? So that's the size of the market. So you think about that across Asia. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
okay. You've got a great slide. I'm going to go into your pitch deck first and jump around a little bit with the pitch deck. If we can start by, let's define the market first, and then we'll talk about really. So you talk about the market size itself. And bear in mind, some people are listening rather than watching, so we may have to talk through some of the data that they can't see. So the 30 billion, this is the Singaporean market, or?
That's only the Singaporean market. Yeah,
and contracts awarded. And there's the split down there between residential and commercial.
Exactly.
What's this line here? 1% penetration.
So, and this means if, like the platform what we are creating, if we just can get 1% of the contract amount basically transacted through the platform. So this includes already $160 million of contract amounts transacted with our platform. And that makes like many people happy, many people less stress, less of paperwork and so on when they transact 160 million through the platform.
Right. Okay, that's a good starting point, isn't it?
Yeah,
We're going to have a look at your platform in a minute. We're going to talk about really. Before we do that, I want to define, you've got a good competitive layout here in terms of the market here. Maybe you can talk a little bit about who's in this market. So it's a $30 billion market. It's in Singapore, a $6 trillion market globally. There's a lot of players in this market. Can you help us understand who is in this market? What sort of names we'll be familiar with?
Yeah, so there are names like, if you want, JLL, Cushman & Wakefield, CBRE, Savills, Knight Frank.
Right, these are the old school
and
property managers, right? Yeah.
Yes. And so they are actually the ones who feel the pain. Yeah. Right, who basically carry the kind of old school way of working, way of managing properties still with them. And that is exactly where we want to help them. Right. Help them in the sense to make their lives, their work life easier, also finally creating a work-life balance, maybe in a good case, but also making the things more efficient from a client perspective. So I was in the client seat, right? And so I could see these kind of problems, what they faced. And then when we look here on the competition markets slide, so where we identified 3 different core areas that basically are at the moment fighting to get some traction on the market. So one area is the project management. So this is like when you, maybe also even in your private environment, when you want to fit out your apartment. So you engage with a project manager. Yeah. So they should manage the whole renovation work of your apartment. And the same happens also in the business world, where if like a new office or a new retail store should be fit out, so there's the project management element. So this is quite central. The next part relates directly to it is the tendering part. Tendering means the whole procurement cycle of getting all the furnitures, carpets, handyman, all such stuff. And so this is also very tedious.
Like Cowdim here in Singapore.
Exactly, for instance. Okay. So they are already on that track. And then lastly, so this is now the new touch for the industry, the PropTech, property technology. So to make the things more automated, just to get technology in place in order to make things more smooth and seamless. Okay. And we see ourselves really in the center.
In the middle. All right. In the middle. Let's talk about that then. So you've helped us understand the property market, the facilities market. You've defined who's in the market, the different stakeholders. Let's start at the top with the problem. If we can jump back into the pitch deck and we have a look at the problem statement that you've got here. Even looking at the graph on the left-hand side, you can see it's quite messy, isn't it? There's a lot of different relationships, and I don't know if you've actually made a point of making out all those lines going all over the place. It shows that there's a lot going on, right? What is the problem? What's fundamentally the problem here in facilities management?
basically a lot of inefficiencies due to like so many manual work still done, right? So people have to be chased after to get things done.
Yeah.
So a lot of paperwork floating around, not only on the table, but from A to B transferred and so on. And when finally the client, so even including myself so I'm then not happy with the quality, with the time of delivery, and also the budget is a main concern. That due to the inefficiencies, so things don't go smooth, and when the providers ask, oh, here, change request, where, change request, and so on.
Yeah.
So finally have to spend more than what we originally budgeted for.
Okay. Let me sort of probe a little bit into that. Surely it's difficult to connect all of these elements into a platform because, for example, a lot of the handymen, they work with cash. A lot of them do sort of favors for each other. You know, that's how they work, isn't it? That's sort of their scene, their ecosystem, right? And you have many, many different parts here and they work through different speeds, right? Pulling all these people together on a platform sounds like an impossible task.
Yeah, we are aware of that. So, but we focus on a very specific segment first. So basically on the bigger partners in terms of corporate real estate and services. So they have already their predefined clients. They have their predefined projects, and so we understand the workflows. So that is what we have studied, like over the last about 1 year plus. So to exactly understand what are the structures in place in order to put this on the platform, so that we exactly can connect all the different dots.
Okay.
So just to basically make the project managers focus on the important tasks and not all the manual chasing of people and sending, like what we also understood, about 70% of their time they are just busy with sending emails.
Right.
But when you look at the NUS on National University of Singapore on their study program, so there's nothing how to send an email around to chase people.
Right. Even though 70% of your time, right?
Exactly, yeah. So that is big waste.
Are they aware of it? Are project managers aware of the waste?
Yes. So they are aware of that.
Yeah.
And so that is, we are working very closely with a couple of them here in Singapore already. So they are very helpful, very supportive on that.
Okay.
So they actually provide us the insights to get this platform customized to them so that they exactly can follow the flow, what it should be. So it doesn't come from us, basically from our gut feel or so. It comes directly from them to say, here, this is how it should work, and these are the functions, features, what we need in order to deliver like our service and so on. And then they're happy because they have then technology in place that takes up a lot of their manual work, and they really can focus on the things they should focus, which is keep the client happy, manage the risks that are always associated with the multi-million projects and the budgets.
And not email.
And no, not so many emails.
Not so much
anymore.
email.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's have a look at your solution so we can understand really and how it all works together. We're going to go back to the front of the pitch deck here with your mission statement. Help us understand. So please define the mission of Really, and then what actually it is.
Yeah, so the mission focuses clearly on the experience. So we want to create a very unique experience for all the property real estate related stakeholders. And this experience is based on a very unique platform. Yeah, so this platform helps to move the stakeholders to this experience level where they can focus on the property instead of all the manual workflows and so on. And so the stakeholders include then starting from the landlords. So we are also talking to some landlords that would be interested to have such platform where they can manage the whole property itself. Yeah. When it comes to the tenants, so clients basically occupying the space, and it moves to all the project managers, property managers, facility managers, as well as all the different service providers that are important and required just to create a space. Do the fit out renovation, but also do the maintenance then. And lastly, so this is the end-to-end cycle, also do the reinstatement, right? So once you move out from a property, you also have to put it back in the right condition to the landlord. Yeah, so end-to-end.
Excellent.
And change the way of experience, how this is done.
Well, we'll have a look at the product itself and how it actually looks. My personal background is in real estate, and so I hear the pain of the commercial landlords as well as the project managers and private landlords as well. And generally, people don't understand unless they've been in the industry. It's hugely inefficient, and one of the reasons it's hugely inefficient is because the industry's been around for thousands of years, right? You know, people have been renting land from landowners since the beginning of time, right? And it worked up to a point, but we haven't really evolved, and there's so many inefficiencies. And I guess also because there's a lot of money involved, that a lot of the inefficiencies can get lost. So, you know, the fact is there's margins and, you know, those get eaten up, right, by inefficiencies. But at the end of the day, you know, we've kind of accepted that all these processes, like, you know, many different stakeholders, many different formats, that's just been how it has been for the last 50 years, right, at least. So I think on the other side as a tenant, you know, whether you're a commercial tenant or a private tenant, we don't really appreciate how inefficient it is on the other side. But it's great that you're coming from that industry. So before we look at the product, how did you go out and hustle the product? How did you talk to people? Tell us about your conversations that you had with people. Like you said, you actually spoke to them and you listened to their issues. You know, they told you this is broken. Like, what about this? Can we do that? Tell me about those conversations, because those are really insightful for any investor. They want to know, how did you go out and actually hear and listen and talk to people? And, you know, did you knock on doors? Did you just show up at facilities and, you know, say, this is what we're doing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically it's based on what you started initially with, that I come from the industry for 7 years in Singapore. So that's where I built up like a network of people in the industry. So, and this is when I started like about more than 1 year ago. So to chat with people, so certain projects didn't go well and so on, and what do you think, why it didn't go well, and so certain reasons. And when I also met one professor from the National University of Singapore, so on a conference. So he is from the Institute of System Science, and so he was obviously pretty much interested in the platforms to automate the industries. And so this was then the connect for me to go to the different persons I know in the industry to understand, so how open are you to adopt to maybe new technologies, to new softwares, applications and so on, to make your life easier. And so I have received a lot of openness. So they are willing basically to share the problems, to allow some of the students to actually do some research in their companies. So we have plotted like a lot of workflows, a lot of pain points identified and valued. And based on that, when we said, okay, these pain points we can maybe attack with one product, with one solution, and see how it goes. And so it's been like a kind of journey. But so far, very open. And also just last week, there was a big conference in Hong Kong. So, and basically like in 2 days, I got agreements to 50 demo sessions with them, not only in Singapore and Hong Kong, all around the Asia Pacific region. And so it's a very open industry to change. And also coming back, what you mentioned just before in terms of like the margins, yes, there are still a lot of margins, but the margins are on the developer side, on the landlord side, on the other end of the food chain, on the project managers, on the service providers side. So the margins are zero, or there's even no margin. So when you look at like a real estate firm like Savills, Knight Frank or CBRE, so what they often do, they actually subsidize the different verticals, what they have in their portfolios, because just on the property management, project management side, there is no margin left.
Right.
So, and that's why
they do it because they can get a sale or a rental client out of it, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
yes. So that is where money comes from,
right.
Finally.
So it's a loss leader. For
them.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And so they just offer it because from a client perspective, yes, I like if you offer me like the full portfolio of services, what I need.
Yeah.
So once I have done the lease with you or the sale, then yes, hand over to your team of project managers, property managers, and they just keep doing the things. but the providers don't own anything on that side. And so they are very open, basically, to solutions that make their services finally efficient and hopefully return to some profits.
Yeah, very interesting. And so how many people do you think you spoke to in conversations, roughly, about, asking them the question, tell me about, your experience and what's wrong and, what is broken in that whole workflow?
Roughly, I have to say, in the hundreds.
Hundreds.
So hundreds. Yeah.
And what did you learn in that about you mentioned pain points. What sort of came at the top of the list of those pain points? That shopping list of these are the things, Joerg, you need to fix for me.
Yeah, so always the emailing that project managers, facility managers, they are so busy just sending emails to chase people for, have you done something, where's this document, and here tomorrow is the meeting, have you prepared, and all such very simple things.
Yeah, silos of information as well, isn't it? So everything's kept on an email or a WhatsApp group.
Yes.
You want it all in one place, right?
Exactly. And the other thing, what is always a problem, is like the procurement part, the tendering of like the big projects, either you do as a fit out or the big project as like a property management of one big facility. Yeah. So that is also like a lot of paperwork, a lot of manual work to be done. And this is just so time consuming in the times where is technology already available, but just not applied on that spot.
Right.
And that's
it comes back to your point, because there's on the management side, because there's so narrow, often zero margins, that they don't have the willpower to invest themselves in the technology, right? Because it's a lot of money for them to invent a system. So for somebody to come along and take away that pain from them, I mean that's a win-win for them, right? So let's have a look at the product itself. If we can jump back into the pitch deck. We can actually have a look at the product for the first time here on the pitch deck. Sorry, we go here on the product slide. Understand a little bit about what this product is. So obviously it's a platform. I guess it's accessible by all the stakeholders. They can log in and tell us a little bit about if I was a project manager or a facilities manager, if I was to log in, what would I see on this platform?
So you would see like in a dashboard view, nicely basically prepared. So this can be customized according to your requirements needs. So you would see what are like any critical tasks. So what are any outstanding points? What's the budget spent? What's still open? So any risks related to any of the activities. And the overall schedule in terms of like maintenance, maybe what is coming up in the next month or quarter and so on. So that you always have it in one spot visible. And on the flip side, basically this kind of view would be also available for your client. So that your client also feels comfortable, knows, the manager has everything under control, and the client sees immediately, so what's the current status.
Yeah, I mean, having that dashboard is invaluable, isn't it? Why can't I use something like a Basecamp or a Trello, for example, even most basic tasks? These are very simple platforms that are out there, project management platforms. Why won't they be useful in this context?
Yeah, we have also looked at those platforms like 1 year ago to also understand. So, and when we saw some gaps what such platforms don't deliver. So in terms of real estate, so one critical thing is like the risks. So basically to have something where you can not only list down the risk, but also calculate risks, put some mitigation measures to it and so on. The other element is the budget. So there are multi-million budgets related to that. And so this must be basically tracked on a very detailed level, so that you always know, so what was the agreed budget, so what is maybe the forecast because of certain changes throughout the project, and then what has been finally committed in terms of maybe signed contracts, and what has been finally spent when in terms of cash maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is like one
These
element.
are critical functionalities that you've got to have if it's real estate,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Okay, which don't exist in other platforms.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And then also all the documents. So this has to be in a certain structure, so that can be also easily shared with everyone from the project.
Yeah. Okay. Until now, you started a year ago in terms of your conversations and your research, if you like, and talking to people, finding out what's wrong. Let's talk about the journey of really and how far you've come. Back into the pitch deck. If we can have a look at slide 8. You talk a little bit about your numbers in terms of how far you've come. So tell us a little bit about what, if we can just go back into pitch deck as well, because there's another slide about your users as well. So tell us how far you've come. You officially launched in February. Was that the working product out in the market, or do you have paying customers yet, or is it an MVP? So tell us everything about where you are in your journey.
Yeah. So we have the project management element, the property management element in the market. So this is used by project managers here in the region. So basically clients in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, in the Philippines, and so on. So they basically see our platform. So this is managed by the project managers already. And so this is what we are, for instance, yesterday we went to KL to pitch there to some corporates. So also very interested, open to adopt that. So this is like already live in the market. So, and the second element is now the marketplace. The marketplace in terms of all the service providers that are required in order to build a facility, a property, and also manage and maintain. Yeah, and so this is where we are now in the UAT phase, in the just before go-to-market phase, where we test already with some of the users of the project management solution, so that they get already the feeling that we develop the tool exactly as they required that to be done. And at the same time, we are onboarding providers. So at the moment, we have already 2,500 providers committed, and 2,500 providers are required in order to manage about 130 properties here in Singapore. So this is already what we have on the paper. And when we have to onboard them on the platform, so that by end of April, so they should be able to process all the different orderings, all the different packages and so on, to make the service provisioning easier with the platform.
How do you focus your time and your marketing in terms of building that marketplace? Because you are building a marketplace with many sides.
Yes.
It's not just buyers and sellers. You've got many, stakeholders within that. Usually, if you focus on one area, it attracts the other stakeholders in. Where is your focus in terms of building the marketplace? Which group do you focus your efforts on to bring in the other stakeholders? Yeah. Or do you focus them all equally?
So the focus is our client or our clients. So they are the focus, and they actually help to onboard all the providers what they work with. So that's basically how we came to 2,500 providers in like just about 1 month time, to say the providers inform or our clients inform their providers to say, here, this is a really cool tool, right? And the name is Really. And in the future, we want to process all our POs, purchase orders, all our procurement through that platform. And please also join this platform.
Right.
And this is then like a win-win for both sides, right? And this is the way how we focus, how we get the providers on the marketplace. And then in different areas, so like starting from the very small item handyman, right, to any repair of something, then to any flooring providers, furniture providers, mechanical, electrical engineers, basically anything, whatever you need.
So I understand it. A client, for example, a Savills or a Knight Frank, as an example,
correct,
they would bring in all their parties, their handyman, their whoever it may be that is involved in that workflow, onto your platform, because for them it's a lot easier. They may say, look, if you want to work with us, you have to do it through this platform, because we're not going to spend 70% of our time chasing emails, right? So I want you here. So they're onboarding all the marketplace for you, right?
Correct.
And how many do they bring on an average? I know you mentioned some figures, but just want to go back on an average. What would one client bring on in terms of?
So it's about 700-800 providers what they usually work with in the different service areas.
Okay. Yeah, so, interesting.
Yeah, and this is only in Singapore. Yeah. So when, but what we also identified, so a lot of providers here active in Singapore. So they are also in KL active. So this is why we reach already out to KL to basically set a foundation in terms of clients. So that in a couple of months, once we have the platform up and running here in Singapore, to also reach out to projects in KL, so that the clients, when in KL, can already source from their local providers, which are similar to the ones in Singapore.
So are you envisaging a scenario where providers onboard clients? Is that possible? Where is that going to happen? You know, where they say, look, we're on this platform, why don't you guys use this?
Yeah, this can also happen. I also had such conversations with providers where they work with certain clients and say, oh yeah, here this would be great. And then, they would be also happy to basically introduce us to their clients and see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we've looked at the problem, the solution, the product, and the journey. We've looked at some of the user numbers as well. Let's have a look at who's behind, really, the team. So you have a slide on the deck towards the end here. Tell us a little bit about who is in your management team, and also we'll look at a bit about your advisors as well. Obviously, Joerg Zeugner, yourself, the CEO. You have a co-founder, or are you the sole founder?
Yes, a co-founder.
Your co-founder, is that?
Co-founder, not here on the slide. In China. So that is how we started, like with two, more than 1 year ago. But as part of the journey, so basically, and it was quite interesting how this team, what you see now, has been built over a couple of months. So to say one key element is Raj, like the CTO. So he is already more than 6 months, almost 8 months with us. So he is basically bringing in sweat equity in the sense of like a big developers team. So this was like one of the challenges to find full stack developers to create that kind of platform. So he is basically bringing in like a big team, and so out of his team, 15 are working for us to develop the platform.
In Singapore or in India?
So they're in India.
Okay.
And the other basically key person, Tom Thomason. So he has the experience of having created marketplaces already in the US as well as in Hong Kong. So he is a great asset.
What kind of marketplaces did he build?
Our team. So this was in the area of like F&B and delivery side. So and where he also exited quite successfully. And then like the other hit was like Usman. Usman is like by profession like a software as a service product manager. So this is a quite good asset, what we need to develop this platform to make it really a software as a service.
And how many people, sorry, just to interrupt you, how many people in total are you?
So here in Singapore,
lose count, I know, obviously.
Yeah, so about 15 people in Singapore.
Yeah.
And plus the 15 in India on the developer side.
So 30 more or less.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
All right.
And just recently, Rachel joined. So Rachel is then our marketing officer. So because for the last year, so everything was in stealth mode. So no marketing, nothing. So this was just always based on relationships and so on. And we want to set this kind of foundation to say before we go really out to the market and do some marketing through all the different channels. So we want to have like a confidence and a base so that the idea can really take off.
Okay.
And so now we feel we are in that stage to take off. And so that is where we start now with marketing. So we are opening now the different social media channels and so on to get basically traction on the website to make this marketplace also attractive to the public. Because finally everyone also listening now in the future should be able to go to the Really website and just search for anything what you need in order to build property or manage or maintain property. So you can find anything just on this marketplace.
So you're ready. Okay.
Yes.
You've got some good advisors as well, not forgetting them. It's always interesting to an investor looking at a team to see who have you convinced to come on board as advisors. If we can just go back a slide here. Obviously, Stephen, we know well. So we'll exclude him from the conversation. Apologies, Stephen. But we know all about you already. Some of the others as well. How did you recruit your advisors? Where did they come from? What kind of conversations got them on board?
So starting maybe top left, Quiz. So Quiz is from Savills, so from the industry. So this is when I also, same as with many others, basically started conversations on what are the problems in the industry and so on. And when I shared some ideas with him, so what could we do? And when he was like very open, oh, that's very interesting what you're doing. And I think it's a great idea and I think this will fly. And so he is very supportive, not only in terms of advisor, but also basically to see the benefit for his business, for his company.
So he's the regional CEO of Southeast Asia for Savills currently.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, that's a trump card to put in your advisory deck there, right? Yeah. That's pretty good.
And also his team is behind, so it's really great.
Okay. And the link with China, obviously, I won't go through all of your advisors, short of time, that's all. But you have some strong links to China as well. Or, I mean, I noticed, for example, some of your advisors, like James Chan from Baidu. Is that?
Yes. So basically, I met him 6 years ago. So he is like a long-time friend, basically. Yeah. And when I also start to share, basically, when I was still in the corporate world, here I have this idea and so on. And he was always like a very venturous guy. So where he built up for Baidu certain entities and also for some other insurance companies. And so he is a very good advisor to give the insights and hopefully also through him we will also get in the future some access to the Chinese market because so I think when you want to set up like not only a local platform solution but on a global scale, so you need to be in the Chinese market as well as on the US market. So the US market is something what we have to look in maybe later this year, 2019. But for the Chinese market, we may have already someone to open the doors.
That's a good start. Okay.
And one other element I want to mention, Vaigor. So he is also advisor. And I know him about 1 year ago. So where we met on an event. And so his background is also technology, infrastructure technology. But for a couple of years, he has in China like a virtual reality, augmented reality company. So they are already having products on the market where they basically put public places in China into virtual reality, what is used there. And they have embarked last year also in this kind of interior design area where we are actually in. And so now we are looking for some volunteers basically as part of our client portfolio to already do a kind of prototype pilot project because we also want to integrate when virtual reality, augmented reality onto our platform. So this is like when the kind of beginning of the journey for everyone, when you see your space in virtual reality. And you can play around with all the different products, what you can buy on the market. So this just helps you to make faster decisions, better decisions, basically, to save time, costs, and energy.
It's real. Finally. I've seen it. I've seen like AR applications in not facilities management, but in repairs, for example. Like somebody can actually go in and have a look at some unit that needs repaired, for example, and you can put labels on it. So if somebody says this pipe's gas, this pipe's water, don't touch that or remove this and so on. It's coming. That future is here already, right? So we need to be prepared for it, right? And you've got the platform ready for that. Let's talk about what happens next. Let's talk about the journey here on in, the ask, if you like. So you're raising funds at the moment.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your raise. What you're going for?
So we are raising basically to scale up the platform, right? So we are basically in terms of funding settled here for Singapore, but when we go around the region, so that is where we want to raise for. To one fund raising what we just finished for Malaysia, right? So where we get basically 2 investors from the co-founder from the beginning and one more person. To say, okay, here, this is the fund what I pass in to get into Malaysia. And the next round would be Indonesia, where we want to also set up the platform, get people on the ground, operationalize, and onboard clients and providers.
So you've already completed a seed round in February,
correct,
locally here. So you closed your round. You now have another top-up round.
Exactly.
Open now?
Yes, open now.
Okay. I want to know what kind of people you're interested in talking to, Joerg, because there's a lot of money out there at the moment, as you know, and it's not difficult to get money. It's more difficult to get smart money. So people who bring in the X factor to really, you know, who can be not just an investor, but also a door opener, an advisor, a mentor, and so on. What are you looking for beyond the money? Are you particularly interested in talking to people who have contact or domain expertise or technology expertise? What interests you? So these people may be listening, so let's put it out there.
Yes, exactly what you just mentioned. Basically, people interested in the industry, from the industry, that can be, as you say, like creating contacts to other group of people, like for instance, developers of buildings. So that is also one target area for us. So that would be interesting. But also some strategic investors that just help us to guide us in the future, right? To really scale up the platform, the market.
Excellent. Good. Well, we put it out there. What would be the best way for people to reach out to you? What's your preferred channel? LinkedIn work for you?
So LinkedIn definitely works, but also traditionally email.
Okay.
Via info@really.sg. So very simple and easy.
Excellent. Joerg Zeugner, everybody, the founder of Really, and we are excited to see the progress of your platform as well. And, you know, you have plans to take this globally. So it's always an interesting story to watch from the sidelines and see how you grow. And obviously it's a big challenge. And given your background as well, you have the experience, you've got the contacts, you've already got your seed investment in, you're checking all the boxes, right? So all the initial signs are good. Wishing you all the best from here on in. You know, the entrepreneurial journey is never going to be in a straight line, as you know. It's going to be a bit up and a bit down. But, you know, as long as it generally heads in the right direction, it's a good one. So, Joerg, thank you so much for coming into the studio today and sharing your journey with us about Really and your next steps. It'd be great to have you on in the future as well and see where you are and how many markets you've expanded to. And importantly as well, what you've learned in the process. So that's Joerg Zeugner, everybody, from Really. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Graham. It was very nice.